Let's talk about, yeah, let's talk about Conversations with Nicole.
Greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host, and it is what I call Mindset Monday. Why did I say Wednesday? I'm already rushing it, right? Mindset Monday. Mindset Monday. So, this is an opportunity for you and me and my guests to have an interactive conversation. We are focusing on Black and Brown clinicians, Black and Brown counselors, and therapists, and trying to normalize the conversation around mental health and wellness in communities of color. So, we have a great topic tonight and a great guest, my special guest. So, I actually met this brother on Instagram. The power of technology and social media is just phenomenal. But before I bring him on and introduce him, I gotta hear from you all. So, Interactive Live, I need to hear, where are you all from? In the comments, please tell us the city and state so I can give you a shout out. Please, please, please. We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Conversations with Nicole on the Greater Works Network on Roku TV. So tag a friend, get your folks to log in and join the conversation. We're talking about anxiety and depression tonight. So we want to get all your questions and comments as it relates to it. I see you all chiming in. So let me say, hey, Natalie, thanks for tuning in. Hey, Jenny Pooh. My Jenny is in Miami. All right. Nora, my cousin in Suffolk, Virginia. We got Pumpkin in Tallahassee. We got Joseph Ward, Mr. On the Shoulders with Giants himself from Tallahassee. My sister in Pembroke Pines, Florida. Shayla, Ozzy in Virginia Beach, and good sir, Dr. Derek Standifer. Thank you so much. He's right here in Tallahassee. And yes, Natalie is in Midway. So thank you all. Thank you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a safe space and a place where we can connect with one another and hopefully peel back the layers on some things, deal with some things, get some healing on some things, and just, love on one another. All right. So let me introduce my guest. My guest is from Fort Lauderdale. South Florida is in the house, right? South Florida is in the house. He is the name of his business, which was also very attractive to me, was Kai Wellness Center. Now, for those of you who know, I have a nephew. My first nephew, his name is Kai, so that is near and dear to my heart, right? But Mr. Ulrich Oxame, he is a licensed clinician, and I'm going to read you just a little bit of his bio. So Ulrich J. Oxame is a licensed clinical social worker. He is the founder of Kai Wellness Center. He's been practicing in the mental health field since 2014. His experience includes working with adolescents and adults with severe mental illness. As a clinician, he provides treatment to diverse populations. In addition to his work with clients, he is a qualified supervisor for social work interns. He was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and later immigrated to the United States as a child. Grew up both in Fort Lauderdale and in Queens, New York. He earned his BSW from Florida Atlantic University and later earned his BSW from Barry University. He is dedicated to providing quality mental health services to the community and aiding other mental health professionals. So help me welcome Jay Exame. Welcome, welcome. Yay!
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Doing good,
I'm
doing
not able
good.
to hear you.
You can't hear me? Uh-oh. Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now, Jay? Can you hear me now? Okay, let's see. Hold on one moment.
I'll come back in.
All right, so he's gonna shoot back out and come back in. But while he is doing that, let's me give a few more greetings. I see you, Lynette. Hey there. Hey, Shantina. Greetings, Isis. So Isis is gonna be with us on Wednesday, and we're gonna be talking about understanding therapy. Hey there, Chorus, Cor- Miss Smith. I'm gonna just say, I see you, Chief. I see you, Chad. Chad will be with us next week. He is a child psychiatrist. So we're going to be talking about your children in stress. So thank you all. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. Okay, let's see if we can get Jay back on here. All right.
A little
We
technical difficulty, but I can
okay,
hear.
that's okay. You good. We good. We good. So welcome, Jay. Appreciate you being on here. So tell the folks, who are you? Not what you do, but who are you?
I am a son. I am a husband. I am a brother. I am a friend. Just living in this experience and just enjoying myself. I am first generation Haitian American. Came into this country in 1989 at 2 years old. From there, living in Fort Lauderdale, then moving to Queens and living there for a while, then moving back to Fort Lauderdale again. So being back and forth and experiencing different cultures and interacting with other different individuals, learning and growing. So for me, mental health came about as a result of seeing what was going on in my community. So, namely, in my hometown of Far Rockaway, New York, where uh, different things were going on. I had friends that were in gifted classes along with me, but once graduating from high school, decided to go on different paths. So some of them ended up getting locked up and being involved in different things that weren't necessarily helpful to them. So I wanted to be able to aid those individuals in bridging the gap between living a life that's more successful, bringing about happiness within their own lives and the lives of other individuals around them. So I've just been completely passionate and just happy to be in the mental health field since 2014. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, so glad you're working in this space. We
Mhm.
need especially more Black male clinicians. So look, when I found you on Instagram, I was like, and he's in Florida. Let me reach out and see if he can join the conversation. So thank you so much for being here. Now, when you and I've talked prior to the broadcast, I know you said that anxiety and depression were two of the conditions that you see quite often in your clients. So that's why we are tackling this topic tonight. So
Okay.
let's dive in. Let's dive on in. So how would you describe or define anxiety?
Anxiety is, in some cases, just being hyper aware of what's going on around you almost at every moment. Sometimes it could look like irritability, so you're super on edge. Sometimes you're just restless and you're not able to just simply stay still. You can find yourself feeling fatigued, having excessive worry, getting to a place where you're having fear, and to a place of where it's irrational, really isn't coming from a basis of reality in some cases. A constant feeling of doom, like something bad is going to happen to you, again, with very little evidence that that's going to occur. Uh, Having the inability to sleep or being in a place where you just completely just want to check out, and then you may feel things like nausea, you might have excessive sweating, you might have trembling in your hands, almost to a point where it's just too much to deal with. So that's exactly, I mean, to some extent, what anxiety looks like for most individuals.
Okay, so let me pause here. I want to hear from the viewers. So, how many of you have experienced any of what Jay has described? You can just give me a little church finger or a thumbs up or something. Um, I think that probably, I've heard people talk about having anxiety attacks,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so with that, it might be a temporal type situation, but anxiety can also be something more long term, correct?
Yes, absolutely. It could just be something that you're dealing with for a long period of time.
Okay.
So some people have it where there's something that is in the environment that might trigger it.
Mhm.
There might be things that are going on mentally that you're carrying around with you that bring you to the point where you're experiencing some of the things that I mentioned before. So within the anxiety realm, we have PTSD as an example, and I'm sure that is something that a lot of you have all heard of PTSD and all of that. And that comes from a traumatic experience that a person might endure and go through. So to some extent, right? We're living in the year 2022. If any of us don't have PTSD, I don't think we were paying attention. It's
Mhm.
been hard, especially the last 2 years or so, just living everyday life. So, to some extent, I would say all of us are dealing with some form of anxiety today.
Mhm. So, what are some of the coping skills around that, around anxiety?
So, some coping skills primarily focus on grounding and remaining in the present. So, anxiety relies on focusing on the past or worrying about the future. So if you're in a present place and everything, for the most part, is calm and is in a place where you're not in immediate danger, you're in a good place. So
Mhm.
remembering, like, I understand what may have occurred. I understand that I have worries about things that haven't come into fruition. I need to be a place where I'm good. And meditation doesn't have to be you sitting with your legs crossed and talking about some and ums and all that other stuff, right? Not all the time. And that's
Okay.
all good. Yoga, I'm not knocking any of that stuff. That stuff is actually great. But it could be any sort of mindful exercise that you find helpful to yourself. So today, for example, I was shaving my face and I can feel the coolness of the blade on my hand. I could feel the texture on my face as the blade was cutting, the hair. I could hear the water as I was tapping, right? So I'm incorporating all of my senses in this activity, and I have to be present unless I want a bunch of cuts on my face, right? So
Right.
in this instance, I'm put in a place where I have to be mindful of what's going on at that very moment. And then also just being like, all right, this is what I was able to accomplish in being present. So I hope the goatee is looking good.
It's on fleek. It's on fleek tonight.
I,
All right. So I want to pause because Chad mentioned that certain careers can cause anxiety as well.
hmm So you have high level stress situations
Mhm.
that can bring about and trigger anxiety. So in the work that I do, I work with high level individuals that are in charge of handling managing teams and things of that nature. So a lot of things may feel like they fall on that person's shoulders and may have a difficulty of letting go of control or feeling like they're out of control because of all the things that are going on, and just in almost any level as well within those high stress level working environments. So I've worked with people, again, 2022, we're still dealing with COVID, where those individuals, if they contract COVID, they're worrying about when do I have to go back, proof of do I actually have COVID, instead of just
Mhm.
simply focusing on what's going on currently, which is I have COVID and I need to recover. I need to be in a place where I'm feeling better, or being attacked with the thought of one of my coworkers has it. Do I have it? Have I contracted it? And things of
Mhm.
that nature. So it makes it a very uncomfortable work environment for a lot of people who are working in person.
So Chad also added, especially law enforcement. So your public service folks,
Mhm.
folks that are um, on the front line having to deal with, the community at large. And now, probably it's been exasperated for people in the healthcare industry, so nurses, doctors, and not that they, you know, weren't used to dealing with people, but they've probably been even more so inundated with dealing with folks and almost around the clock. I mean, I've seen some news stories where folks, were working like days on end with very
Mhm.
little breaks. And so I could see them, possibly experiencing anxiety. My sister is a teacher, so this is her right here. She's talking about man. So
Mhm.
so when you put the pandemic on top of all of that, that just complicates it even more.
Yeah, and just living the experience as a human being in this century. We're constantly bombarded by different things that we're worried about, and focusing on things that have occurred. I know some individuals that are still running away from things that occurred in high school because they were posted online. And anytime they interact with individuals, they're always like, is it going to be a discussion about what happened 7, 8 years ago? So everything seems permanent. Everyone is watching. You're kind of in this fishbowl, and so you're a little bit more cognizant and aware about every step that you take, and that's a lot of pressure
Yeah.
to be under.
Yeah, that is. That is a lot of pressure. So I'm going to the viewers. I'm trying to make y'all really involved in this talk tonight. Are you all feeling the pressure? You know, I'm saying post pandemic. We're still in the pandemic, but it's maybe not as intense as it once was. But are you all feeling the pressure? Are you feeling anxious now, currently in your daily lives, whether that's at work or at home? And if so, what are you doing to manage that? What are you doing to cope? Just in the comments briefly, let us know. We want to hear from you. So I know you were talking around some of the things that you can do to cope, right? You talked about meditation and yoga, being present. What other things would you recommend, Jay?
Anything that brings happiness into your life. So if it means reading, if it means going out for a walk, if it means spending time with family,
Hmm.
you know what works for you. And I also say the opposite of what makes you unhappy. Some of the things that bring you upon anxiety into your life, you want to reduce or eliminate, if possible. And we talked about work, right? We have to eat, we have to go in to work. But if it's in a hostile environment, what are we doing to get ourselves in a better position not to be in that environment, if possible, or learning how to de-stress when faced with the environment that is making us stressful? What kind of armor can we put around ourselves so when
Hmm.
we're stepping in those arenas, we're going to be okay?
Yeah.
So we just came back from the holiday season, right? December wasn't too long ago, but for some people, like that's a battle zone. A lot of hurts, a lot of pain goes into that. So they're already in panic and worry mode. But if you put on the right amount of armor and have made a set plan for yourself, an exit strategy is what I call it, you might come out of that situation okay. Not in the best of shape, but in a better position than you would being unprepared.
So we're getting a lot of comments. There was a question though, and which is kind of around what you were saying. Virtue, who's in Tampa, the Tampa area, she said, "What if you're a caretaker and you can't avoid it, the bad environment?"
hmm We have to find time where we have self care.
Hmm.
Uh, we have to carve it out. There's 24 hours a day, and we have to make it a priority. When we identify in a certain way, it can take over our lives. So I'm a therapist, but I can't be a therapist 24 hours a day. I have to be me. I have to find a place where I can carve out whether it be 30 minutes, an hour here, an hour there, where I'm refilling my cup. Again, that suit of armor that you're putting around yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If you're taking care of yourself gradually over time, when you're confronted with it, you'll be somewhat okay. What I will say is understanding and having a different perspective on the situation, I think, helps as well. So if it's a 10 in the worst thing that can happen kind of category, how can we get it to a place of maybe 7, which is better than 10? And what does that look like? What are the micro steps that you can take over time to find yourself in a better situation? I would rather a 7 than a 10 any given day. And then maybe I can find myself at a 5, and that's where it stays. Maybe it stays at a 5.
Okay.
And life is stressful. I will give that. So I don't want to take that away from anyone who's experiencing stress in a very unhappy environment, tough environment, I should say.
Indeed. So Shantina added prayer, sitting still in a quiet
Mhm.
place, listening to music.
Mhm.
I'll put my sister's comment. She said, yes, dealing with teaching in the pandemic and then a lot of ups and downs within the school environment has made me anxious, especially these past couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I have some folks that are working in the school system, and down here in South Florida, there were a couple of uh, threats where there were going to be a school shooting of some sort that started on TikTok, if I remember correctly.
Mm,
So you had police officers, a SWAT team coming to the schools and searching, guns drawn, and all of that stuff. And that's traumatic. That's tough. Already in a situation where teachers are in a place where they're teaching with limited resources in a time where we weren't prepared for it. Reeling and coming back from 2 years of the difficulty and trying to get their students on track, the students trying to be on track, dealing with things that are going on with them physically, socially, and with their education. And then you add on the surprise of what occurred with the threats of violence against these individuals. So it, it's not an easy time for anyone. So my hats off goes off to our educators out there for sure,
absolutely.
and our
Yeah.
students.
Thank you for sharing that. Stephanie said she's currently at peace, but if she feels anxious, she writes in her journal, she prays, go for a walk, work out.
Yeah, yeah, love it.
Jamil says self care is so important for everyone. I especially like to encourage those individuals that are in the helping profession to practice self care. It does take practice.
Hmm.
Yes. Don't forget about yourself.
Yeah, I'm working on that myself.
Uh, yes, 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 yes.
Right.
Okay, and Nora had a comment. She said, also someone who has dealt with anxiety since the age of 10. This is a very needed topic of discussion. I take Lexapro and hydroxine daily. As a salon owner, wife, and mother of 6, I cope by taking a self care day once a week to unplug from everything. Very good, Nora.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Hmm.
All
So
right.
yeah, that area where you're making a day, an hour, whatever it is, it's an investment um,
Mm-hmm.
that you're making, and you're worth it. And I think for us, a lot of times we're told our value comes from what we produce and what we're doing out there for others and for our community 100% of the time. But again, with the adage of we can't pour from an empty cup. So we have to
Mm-hmm.
fill ourselves and be in a place where this is just for me. I am being selfish here,
Yes.
and that's okay. Someone else can maybe take over and handle this particular situation, and learning how to delegate in some situations. This is a bit morbid, but I tell people a lot of times the world will continue without you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to allow other individuals to know, like, hey, I'm taking this time for myself, and you have to respect that, and just stand your ground when it comes to that, to some degree. Hmm.
Absolutely. Stand your ground like your life depends on it, because it actually does.
Yes.
All right, Chad asks, why do you think our culture shies away from mental health issues or treatment? Great question.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your thought about that?
Yeah. It comes from a lot of different places, but some of the places I think of is just the stigma of being mentally ill. Like there's something that is seen as something is wrong with you. It's a moral failing. It's something you did.
Mm,
Whereas I look at it as it's an invisible uh, disorder or situation or challenge that you're under. So if a person has cancer, we're going to be a little bit more careful and caring with that person because it's something that just occurs. Most cancers, to some degree, occur without you necessarily doing something. So we can be a little bit more empathetic towards that. But for some reason, we look at mental illness as something that an individual did to themselves. Um, there's nothing wrong with spirituality or religion or anything like that. But I've heard from other individuals in their family, it's like, when I told them I was going to work with you, meaning me, my family was against it because we go to church. We have our church family, we have the pastor. Um, so there might be ties in that where it's like a betrayal, possibly against maybe their spiritual belief. Like they're admitting that um, they're battling demons, for lack of a better word, in an alternative way
mm-hmm.
that might not be smiled upon. So I always joke about there's nothing wrong with Jesus and therapy. Like they can go hand in hand. Um,
Absolutely. God made counselors and therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists.
mhm.
So they can coexist.
Yeah, and then there's also just our feeling about the medical field in
Mm,
general. It hasn't always been the nicest to people who look like us, for lack of a better word. So there are some different challenges, and there's evidence of individuals like ourselves being treated in a certain way and not being cared for in the way that they need to be cared for.
mm-hmm.
Maybe it also is a lack of representation. So,
Mm,
thank you for that warm introduction that you gave me, Nicole. But there are a lot of individuals like myself who look like me that are out in the field, but they're not seen, they're not known. It's not at the forefront. So for a lot of us, if we close our eyes and think of a therapist, we think of some graying white guy who has you laying down on a couch with a pen and pad. And therapy is a lot more than that. We're not dissecting you and breaking you down to the smallest molecule. It's not that. It could be a multitude of different things. So I was having a discussion about art therapy, movement therapy, talk therapy, other different methods in which the therapy can be delivered if you're not into the traditional, let's sit down and talk about it sort of thing.
mm-hmm.
There are different things that you can incorporate and have therapy be something that you look forward to. So it doesn't have to be, in a sense, clinical, cold,
Mm-hmm.
something is wrong with you. You're going to the asylum or something. It's like, no,
Right.
it's as normal as going for your 6 month checkup, or it's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be. And then there's another point right there too, right? We're not, at least for the guys, right? We're not always the most on top of our health period, let alone our mental health, because we can't see it. But it shows up in so many different ways. So
You know,
yeah.
you said something there. I just can visualize, maybe therapy looking like you're in there listening to music, or maybe you're painting or coloring, or, you know, doing some other type of therapy, if you will, which while you're doing this, these conversations might take place. And so, in the natural progression of things, then, as the conversations move forward, then certain truths or realities or thoughts and feelings are revealed. So It's not as you have described. I think, historically, yes, it has been this white guy with you on the couch, him with his sitting in the chair with his notepad. But
Mhm.
no, we see you here. Look, I'm gonna zoom in on you. Look,
Yeah.
this is the therapist of 2022. All right.
Mhm.
All right. So we got a few more comments here. Jamil said Jesus was therapy on feet, therapy in the flesh. Yes. All right. And Nora said she didn't get diagnosed until 2017, wasn't taught how to properly deal with my feelings or emotions. It wasn't until I got a therapist that I learned that some of my anxiety was childhood trauma that was never dealt with that showed up in adulthood.
I
And
felt
that
that.
typically is the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, in the topic of depression and anxiety to some extent too, if me as a parent, I don't know how to deal with my own stuff, how can I teach my children? And then
Absolutely.
that goes on to my children's children, to some extent.
Hmm.
So I think we're in a place where we're flooded with knowledge. I think that could be a good thing in the sense of we're more cognizant about how mental health affects those around us. It's a
Hmm.
community wellness sort of thing that we have to look at it as. Uh,
Absolutely.
it's for me and then also for those around me and those who come after me. So it's an investment that we're making. And in our past, it's been I'm trying to live for today. I don't
Mm.
know. Tomorrow's not guaranteed.
Right.
But I think as we move on, we're feeling a little bit, I hope we're feeling a little bit more comfortable in the thought of let me invest, not only for the generation that's here, but for the generation that comes after. To some
Absolutely.
extent.
Absolutely. So a lot of great comments. I want to put up Dr. Asha's. She said, "Agree," and it's so much more impactful when your therapist looks like you, talks like you, and you don't have to explain yourself as a pre-context for each therapy session. You can be vulnerable and authentic. So grateful for my therapist. So
Mhm.
that's that cultural, um, what do we call it? Cultural competency, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so if that's missing, you spend more time trying to explain, you know, why you got burnt on your ear from the straightening comb, uh,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
Saturday before Easter Sunday, and how that that experience traumatized you, and when your therapist just doesn't understand the whole idea of getting your hair straightened, right?
Yeah,
From a
yeah.
cultural standpoint.
Yeah. So like I'll have a client, just on a pretend type stuff, like I tore his ass up. I was like, you don't really mean that in the literal sense. So I don't need to be getting on the phone and, all right, let's have a conversation. What did the discipline look like? And how was it helpful in the situation, or what did it take away from? Right. So I'm not jumping to conclusions because I understand the way that we speak and we have certain expressions and things of that nature. So if you're outside of it, you don't really get it. It's like, oh, that party was lit. Oh, there was a fire? Like, no, that party was amazing. I had a great time. Like,
Right.
there's just certain things you don't have to explain when
Hmm.
your therapist comes from a very similar background as yourself.
Absolutely. All right, Lynette had a comment that I want to bring up. She said, I just returned back to work. I started the year off on a 5 week mental wellness sabbatical, worked with my employer's EAP and STD benefits. The STD benefits actually are paid by my employer at 100% for 8 weeks. So I still have 3 more weeks I can use, and that's separate from my vacation and sick leave. Wow, that's awesome.
Hmm.
Please, folks, take advantage of all of your employer benefits if available. We must culturally affirm our mental wellness. Amen. Listen, where you work, because I need to go. I need to go apply for that job to get those types of benefits. Because listen, it's a real thing out here. So yes, please check into your EAP employee assistance programs and see if they have expanded those benefits to include counseling sessions, um, maybe they weren't offering them and now they are, or maybe they were offering them but now they're offering more. So, and ask them about offering them. Tell them it's something that you need,
Mhm.
as a result of the climate that we're in right now, that it will be very beneficial to you and your productivity as an employee. So, just something to consider.
Yeah. So yeah, I completely agree with you there. There are benefits that people aren't aware of. In some cases, the money is being taken out of their paycheck for medical benefits.
Hmm.
Employees are paying into it as well, and sometimes we're not taking advantage of it.
Absolutely.
Speaking to your HR representative and seeing how to work it out. So I've had clients who are given maybe 6 to 8 sessions and they require more and don't know how to go about it. And they're like, well, that's it. Well, no, ask
Hmm.
questions. See how much more you can maybe get out of the benefits that you do have, or if there's a different way to tweak it, depending on what the challenges are. So you may be able to get another set of appointed days through your EAP based on what the challenges are, or there's like a cool down period and it restarts again. So just simply asking questions, it never really hurts.
Absolutely. All right, Stephanie has a question. I want you to maybe address this towards the end, but I'm gonna put it up here so that I don't forget it. But how do I approach and speak to my son who is 10 years old about the topic of mental health? So let's circle back on that one, because I want us to go ahead and transition into depression.
Okay.
Depression. So, how do you define depression?
I look at it as a unhappiness that is just hovering around your life, dealing with guilt, dealing with feelings of hopelessness, finding yourself in a place of displeasure, not enjoying things like you used to, just being withdrawn from what's going on around you. It may look like mood swings and dealing with sadness that just seems to linger around longer than it needs to. And then physically, it may also look like weight gain or weight loss, fatigue, being fatigued again, a lack of focus in terms of what's going on with you mentally, and just feeling disconnected. Um, I would describe all of those within the realm of depression.
Okay. All right. So, talk around. Um, well, let me back up because we actually do have a comment around depression. So, Tay Floyd, hey Tay, Tay said, "I deal with anxiety as a man, and I am quite close to giving in to my depression. I feel as if I have nowhere to hear me out, as if no one cares how I feel, because if a black man react, I'd be," and I don't see the remainder of the comments. So Tay, if you could, give us a little bit more, but if you would speak to that a little bit, Jay, if you don't
Mhm.
mind.
Yeah, it starts with an awareness of where you are. So if you feel in those dimensions of your life that are lacking as a result of your depression, I say be preventative instead of reactionary. So let's start putting things in place to ensure that your mental health is going to remain in a good way. So looking at where are some of the things that add on to the stress of being depressed. So if I'm in a place where I'm degraded, I'm disrespected, I'm unvalued, yeah, it makes sense that I might be dealing with depression. So it's
Mhm.
looking at your environment, the people around you, and at yourself, and asking, certain questions and developing certain solutions for it. And it's not a snap and it's going to be over situation. It is a gradual plan that you develop over time. So what am I going to do today, and the day after that, and 3 months, a year from now? Uh, start a sort of way of looking at it. In some cases, being prepared to do things that you're uncomfortable doing. So if that means talking to a mental health professional, if that means going to a psychiatrist, if that means getting up and going for a run every single day because that gets your feel good chemicals going. You do whatever it's going to take to get you to places again that you've never been.
All right. Thank you for that. He did go ahead and finish out the comment. He said, to deal with the depression and anxiety, especially as of lately, I'm so close to giving up. I feel as if I'm not heard and no one cares because I'm a black man. Please, what do I do?
Hmm. All of those things that I mentioned, and if things really do get out of line, call the 1-800 suicide hotline. Check yourself into um, your local receiving hospital if that's the case, um, where you feel that it's in a place where you're not of safety. So.
Absolutely. Let me just tell you, I'm not sure what city and state you're in, but if you're in Florida, we definitely can give you some resources that
Hmm.
you can utilize to get some help.
Hmm. Hmm.
But you can
Today,
call up, yeah, today, because you are accepting new clients, right?
as of yesterday, no.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. My caseload is all filled up, which is it's a good thing and a bittersweet thing.
Mhm,
But it has opened my eye to the need of more clinicians like myself out there in the field. So my
mhm.
hope for 2022 is to add on more team members. I just finished an internship. One of my students finished their internship with me. So it's a one man show again. So I'm hoping to get some help on that end. So at the time when I did have that intern, I was offering free sessions, free limited sessions for individuals who weren't able to afford it. So that's another thing that individuals who are interested in getting therapy, looking into it if it's a lack of benefits or a lack of funds, speaking to practices that may have individuals who may be able to offer pro bono services, although it
Mhm.
may be limited, but it at least is a foot in the door,
Right.
sort of situation.
Exactly. And something is better than nothing.
Hmm.
So Tay, don't give up. Hang in there. Again, we'll put up the crisis text information and National Suicide Hotline information as well. But again, if you're in Florida, we can also connect you with some resources immediately. All right. So Chad had a question around the recent suicides of Chelsea Chris, Moses Mosley, Ian Alexander. What signs can a family member look for, or what are some indicators?
Yeah. This is the way that they speak to some extent. So when those individuals start talking about themselves in the past and are not very future oriented at all, like I'll see you tomorrow, and they'll say stuff like we'll see. um, just question marks should kind of go up. Your feelers should kind of go up for that sort of thing. When those individuals are giving away their possessions at a rate that doesn't quite make sense, they start engaging in reckless and harmful behavior that is completely in a place that is not of characteristic for themselves. Just to be aware of that, becoming more withdrawn, more isolative. So they're staying to themselves, they're not involving themselves, they're not accepting phone calls, they are not communicating with anyone. They may be in the brink of taking their own lives. And as your previous guest mentioned it before, having conversations about suicide isn't going to cause a person to be in a place where they're going to die by suicide. It may be a beacon of hope to open the discussion about reasons to remain here, feeling the acceptance, feeling like they're not isolated in the situation, and being able to accept the additional help that might come along. So, yeah, those are some of the things that we need to look out for, and some of the things that we can do when interacting with individuals that we feel may be on the brink of suicide.
No, very good point. And folks are also chiming in, especially to Tay, just encouraging him and letting him know that he should hang in there. Asha said that Florida Blue is offering free counseling for anyone. You don't have to have an insurance plan with them. And then if you're in Florida, you can also dial 211, which is a an
Yes.
information hotline, and they have counselors typically on hand to talk to you. So, and again, if it is an emergency, by all means, dial 911 and talk to someone right away. And Asha, she's so resourceful. She put up the suicide hotline. Thank you. I was actually putting getting it up myself. So that is definitely another resource that you can use. So save it and keep it as a number that you can contact in the future. All right, or right now if need be, or right now. All right. So this is good. This is I think a meaningful conversation around these topics because we hear a lot about it. Actually, when I was doing the posting on the stories and I try to put songs with it, I didn't realize how many songs there were out there about anxiety
Yeah.
and depression. And
Yeah.
so people are really feeling this,
Mhm.
really feeling this. And so I think it's definitely important that we keep this conversation going
Mhm.
and utilize the things that we've talked about here today to help mitigate some of that. Right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, to some degree, like you were talking about songs, as of recently, it's
Mm,
been brought out and discussed out in the open. Hey, I'm dealing with anxiety.
mm,
I am dealing with depression. I would argue there are songs from like the 60s and 70s that there's hints of, yeah, I'm dealing with some stuff right now and
mhm,
I'm trying to figure out just like as much as the next person. So I love music therapy. I listen to music any chance that I get. It helps me recenter, refocus, get me to my happy place. Music for me is tied to good times a lot of the times.
yes.
Depends on what I'm listening to. So being mindful of that, it can be an awesome coping skill
Mhm.
for those who are audiophiles.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Now, last year well, no, 2020, with the death of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, I think, at least I know my anxiety level was even more so heightened,
Mhm.
and particularly in the workplace.
Yes.
I was, I think, a bit more sensitive to some of the microaggressions that I probably kind of let roll off my back
Hmm.
previously. And so, I think we have definitely brought some a new level of sensitivity to some of that stuff, but
Hmm.
still, we're still dealing with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And as you're discussing the deaths of those individuals, I was confronted not too long after George Floyd,
Hmm.
where I ran a yellow going onto a red light situation, and I was pulled over, and my brother-in-law was sitting in the front seat next to me, and then my younger brother was sitting in the back seat. And how I was approached was just completely aggressive and was yelling and accusatory, and it was a simple mistake. And the whole time, just sitting there thinking like, I would just want to go home. I
Mm,
just want to make it home. Um, I didn't engage with them. I just try to remain very cool and collected about the situation. I followed the directions. I'm getting emotional about this as much as I could,
yeah.
because at the same time, I don't want to endanger my brothers who are in the car with me,
Hmm.
along with myself as three black men, who are just coming back from playing basketball. So,
Hmm.
um, and that still stands out and is a very sensitive thing for me. So, like, getting pulled over from that time, if that ever happens again, moving forward, like I'm going to be a little bit more on edge than I normally would have been. But again,
Hmm.
just trying to remain present and all right, this is what it is, and I'm gonna do my best to make it home.
Absolutely. All right. So we are still sending our thoughts and love to Tay. So Tay, please, uh, get the resources that you need. You're not alone, and there is someone out there that you can talk to as a Black man. You are not alone. All right. Chad mentioned Amir Locke recently, and then
Mhm.
Asha said that a friend told me her therapist had her create a go-to playlist.
Mhm.
She has one for music on Spotify, another on YouTube as a playlist of speeches, interviews, sermons, meditations, etc. that encourage her during times of anxiety and or suicide ideation. That is great.
I
I
like that.
love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. That is really good. All right. Asha said really good conversation. Awesome. Awesome. All right. And Antonio, who is a clinician here in Tallahassee, also sending out thoughts to Tay. Sorry to hear that, brother. I appreciate the transparency and vulnerability. Absolutely. So, Tay, listen, again, you're not alone. We are here with you, and to the extent that we can help, utilize some of the resources, we're here for you.
Mm.
All right. So, oof, this has been good. It's a lot of information, but good information.
Mhm.
Now, you shared with me some links, and so I'm gonna put those in the comments. But I want you to kind of tell us what some of these links are
Mhm.
and why you thought that they would be helpful to the viewers.
Yeah. So the very first one is Beam.
Okay.
It is a collective of Black therapists where you can find them on this directory. And what's also amazing about this directory is most, if not all, of these individuals who are featured are telehealth therapists. So
Okay.
you can access them if you don't have access to a therapist in person and want to start therapy in a setting where you feel the most comfortable. And
Mm,
that really stood out to me. The very next one is the Open Path Collective. Again, this is another directory open to all types of different clinicians. What's interesting about this directory is that they are low cost. So
mm,
everyone on there for their individuals uh, will charge you $30 in that range to at most 60. So no more than $60 per session.
okay.
And those of who are in the know that is virtually a steal
Mm,
if you're paying out of pocket.
okay.
Uh, so they ask you to sign up. You pay a one-time fee to have access to the therapist that you want to have access to moving forward, and then those therapists go with the promise of I am accepting clients knowing that they're in a place where they want low-cost therapy and are willing to do so.
Nice.
So it kind of takes out the haggling and bargaining situation when trying to negotiate like what the price of the sessions are going to be, which I've been on the other end of it. I'm not the biggest fan. Like, can you do 30 less? Like, no, we've already
It's
come and
like,
know.
let's make a deal or something. What is
Yeah,
this?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just like, yeah, we just know, hey, this is what it is, and this is what you're charging me, and we're good. So we're starting off on a great foot because money is a major issue. Miami.
Hmm.
Uh,
It's a
uh,
it no it no. So let me just pause. It is a major issue. I mean, I'm doing some behavioral health navigating work here in Tallahassee, and most of the black and brown clinicians do not accept insurance. which means you got to pay out the pocket. And
Yeah.
those sessions on average are running about $125, $150 an hour.
Mhm.
So,
Say that again louder for the people in the back.
one about 150 an hour. So yeah, and I'm trying to figure out like on some of this, why either the insurance companies aren't accepting these clinicians, or the clinicians don't want to do. I mean, I've heard some stories around that, but that's a whole
Yeah.
nother lie. But anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
seriously,
So
like, I can give you a whole 30-minute soapbox on it. I accept insurance, but
okay.
I have my gripes against it. I see the benefit of it, and then I also
Hmm.
see the pain that comes along with insurance as
Yeah.
well. So,
All right. But this is Open Path Collective is an option for some low cost counseling
mhm,
services.
yeah.
Okay.
The very next one is Iona therapy.
Hmm.
So most of us have heard of BetterHelp. So you think of that, but more geared to individuals of color.
Hmm.
So if you're a black Muslim man and want to work with a black Muslim male, then you probably will have a very good chance of finding that sort of individual on that directory, as an example. So they kind of curtail it and cater it towards individuals who are looking to work with individuals like that look like them.
Gotcha.
The very next one is ZocDoc. So for me, I recently got into taking better physical care for myself, but one of the challenges was finding a doctor that accepted my insurance and I wouldn't be paying an exuberant copay because they're an out of network provider and all of that other stuff that I didn't understand. It's simplified. You scan your insurance card, and then you're able to filter and look for a therapist, a doctor, whoever that you need, a psychiatrist, psychologist that accepts your insurance, and then be able to book your appointment based on the availability that's on the calendar. So, as much as I'm a therapist, the less that I have to talk to human beings, the better. I just want to kind of get in, do my thing, and see the professional I want to see. So
Okay.
that helps.
Gotcha.
Um, and the very last one is therapy for Black girls. They do a tremendous job of showcasing and displaying female therapists that look like us. It's complete representation. It's a beautiful website, very well done, and you are going to be connected. In my heart, I feel to individuals that simply just get it. So I'm always I'm always standing for my black queens. You do so much. So if you're looking for a therapist, you go ahead and find yourself one on therapy for black girls.
Nice, 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 nice. Thank you. Boy, you just a wealth of resources around here. I love it. So
Okay.
Antonio, who again is a clinician here in Tallahassee, wants to connect with you. He's looking to start a support network of Black male therapists.
I love it.
I love
I
it
love
too. So definitely put you in touch with Antonio.
it. Hmm.
For sure, for sure, for sure. All right. Well, we are wrapping up our hour. So anything, I mean, you listen, those resources were great. But anything else you want to, say before we wrap it up?
Yeah. So therapy is for everyone. So
Say it again.
therapy is for everyone. So just as you see your PCP, your dentist, your hairstylist, go make sure you see a therapist at some point in your life, even for just a little bit, just a couple sessions, if possible. So just do it. Make sure that you're completely committed and open to the process that is therapy. And if it doesn't work the first time, don't give up on it. There's an adage that us therapists have, which is therapy is like finding a good pair of shoes. It may not be the first shoe that you try on may not be the perfect fit, but try it and try again until you do.